Homeless boy shared his last meal with a collapsed biker's daughter. By morning, 520 bikers came. The girl on the asphalt didn't look real at first, just a dark shape under a streetlight, hair spread out, one arm twisted too far. Then she coughed, wet and weak, and Liam felt his stomach drop. He was starving, he was freezing, and he was holding the last hot meal he'd be able to afford for days. A car splashed slush past them. Red taillight washed the girl's face. She moved again, barely. Liam should have kept walking. That was the rule when you lived outside. Don't get involved, don't get seen, don't become a convenient suspect. But the streetlight caught metal at her collarbone, a heavy pendant with a skull and wings dented like it had taken a hit. Biker. His throat tightened. Biker symbols meant protection or trouble you couldn't outrun. He forced his knees to the pavement. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered, blue lips, blood at her hairline, leather jacket torn up like she'd slid across the road and lost. "Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from." Liam's phone box pressed against his ribs, warmth leaking through the lid into his hoodie. He'd bought it 10 minutes ago with the last crumpled bills he had, money he'd planned to stretch for 2 days. The cashier at the corner store had looked at him like he was a stray dog and still rang it up. Liam had walked out feeling almost human for the first time in weeks, now that heat was the only thing he had to give. He flipped the box open. Steam rose, thin but real. The smell of gravy and fries hit him so hard his stomach clenched. He grabbed a fry, broke it, and pressed a small piece to her lips. "Chew," he said. "Stay awake, please." The fry fell. Her mouth trembled like it couldn't remember what eating was. "Okay," Liam whispered, panic rising. He tore a bit of bread, soaked it, and eased it into her mouth with 2 numb fingers. This time, her jaw moved, slow, painful. But it moved. He exhaled, shaky. Her eyes tried to focus on him and failed. A thin line of blood slid from her hairline toward her ear. Liam ripped napkins from the takeout bag and pressed them to the cut. The paper turned red instantly. Don't move," he said, even though she couldn't. I'm just stopping it." He knew nothing about first aid. All he knew was pressure, warmth, and don't let them fall asleep. That was what people said in movies, and movies were all he had to learn from. He glanced at her hands. One finger wore a ring, silver, thick, engraved with a tiny symbol that matched the skull and wings. Her nails were clean, chipped only from the road, not street, not like him. He patted her jacket for a phone, then stopped. Touching her pockets felt like crossing a line that would get him killed later. Instead, he looked around her body, eyes darting. A cracked phone lay in the gutter a foot away, screen spiderwebbed, dark. It might have been dead. It might have been smashed on purpose. Liam didn't want to find out which. He scanned the street. The diner behind him was closed, neon buzzing like an insect. The laundromat across the intersection was dark. No open doors, no people, just wind and wet pavement. He stripped off his hoodie and draped it over her chest. Cold stabbed his skin instantly, but he tucked the fabric tight around her shoulders anyway. She shivered so hard her teeth clicked. "You're not dying here," he said, more to himself than her. Her hand found his sleeve and grabbed. The grip was desperate, stronger than it should have been. Liam froze. Then he fed her another tiny bite, and another. Every swallow looked like a fight. "Listen," he murmured, leaning close so she'd spend less energy hearing him. "I'm going to get help. You just have to keep your eyes open." Her lashes lifted, fell, lifted. He could feel his own hunger like claws in his stomach. The food in his hand might as well have been gold. He hated that his brain even counted the bites. He hated that survival made you stingy with mercy. He leaned closer. "What's your name?" Her lips moved. Nothing. "Hey, what's your name?" A whisper scraped out. Harper? Liam guessed. Her eyes squeezed shut like that hurt. "Okay, Harper. I'm Liam." He tried to smile, but his face wouldn't cooperate. "I'm right here." He tried to ease his sleeve free to reach for more napkins. Her fingers tightened, nails biting through fabric. "All right," he breathed. "All right, I'm staying." He needed a phone. He didn't have one. He needed an ambulance. The city didn't send those for kids under bridges, unless someone made noise, so he looked for headlights. A dark SUV rolled through the intersection and slowed, not like a driver who was lost, like a driver who was looking for something specific. It stopped across the street, half in shadow, idling. Window down a crack. A cigarette ember glowed. Liam couldn't see the face inside. He could feel the eyes, though, steady, patient, like they'd already decided what this was. The SUV didn't honk, didn't drive on. It watched. Liam lowered his head, pretending he hadn't noticed, and whispered, "Harper, do you know them?" Harper's eyes snapped open, not confused now, terrified. She tried to lift her head, failed, and rasped one broken word. "No." Liam's pulse hammered. He slid a flattened piece of cardboard under her shoulders to get her off the ice-cold asphalt. She gasped, but she didn't scream. He tucked the hoodie tighter. He pressed his palm to her cheek. Too cold. He looked up again. The SUV door opened, not fully. Just enough for a boot to touch the pavement. Every muscle in Liam's body locked. Street memories hit him like punches, hands grabbing, voices laughing, being blamed for things he didn't do because nobody cared to check. He stood, placing himself between the SUV and Harper without thinking. The boot stayed planted. The person didn't step out all the way. A low voice drifted from the dark, calm, almost amused. "That your friend?" Liam's mouth went dry. "She needs an ambulance." "What happened?" "I found her." Liam heard the tremor in his own voice and hated it. "I don't know." "You call it in?" "I don't have a phone." A soft chuckle. Like that was funny. Like being poor was a punchline. Liam felt something harden behind his ribs. "Then call it." Silence. The cigarette ember brightened, dimmed. He was being measured, not as a person, as a risk, as a story that could be twisted. Harper tugged his sleeve again, pulling him down. Liam crouched beside her, eyes still on the SUV. Her breath brushed his ear. "Don't trust." "I won't," Liam whispered. He straightened. "If you're not helping, leave." The boot shifted. The door creaked wider. Headlights appeared at the far end of the street, finally. A vehicle coming toward them. Liam's heart lifted, then sank. It was a delivery van slowing for the light, tires whispering over slush. He did the only thing he could do. He stepped into the lane and threw both arms up. The horn exploded. Tires hissed on wet pavement. The van lurched to a stop so close, Liam felt heat from the engine and the slap of dirty air. The driver's door flew open. A man leaned out, furious. "Are you insane?" Liam pointed back at Harper, hands shaking. "She's bleeding. She can't stay awake. Please, call 911. The man's anger vanished when he saw her. He stumbled out, eyes wide, then fumbled his phone from his pocket. "Jesus." He looked at Liam like he was about to ask 100 questions, then saw the blood on the napkins and didn't ask anything. He just lifted the phone and started talking fast. Liam backed toward Harper, keeping his body between her and the SUV. He dropped to a knee again and pushed another soaked bite of bread to her lips. "It's coming," he told her. "Help's coming." Harper's eyes rolled toward the SUV across the street. She made a small, strangled sound like a warning he couldn't translate. The driver on the phone paced, voice cracking. Yeah, she's on the curb by Benny's diner. No, I don't know. Teen girl, head injury. She's freezing. Send someone now." From the SUV, the calm voice called out again, louder this time. "You didn't see anything, man." The delivery driver froze mid-sentence, phone still to his ear. He looked at the SUV like he'd just noticed it was there. His face drained. Liam's stomach turned. "Keep talking," he hissed to the driver, urgent. "Don't hang up." The driver swallowed, eyes flicking between Liam and the SUV. He turned his back, as if that could make the SUV disappear, and spoke even faster into the phone. Liam shifted closer to Harper, shielding her with his body. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have backup. He had cardboard, napkins, and a meal that was getting cold. He heard the SUV engine change pitch, still quiet but ready, like it was deciding. The driver on the phone kept pleading. "Please, just send an ambulance." Liam turned his head just enough to check the SUV. The door was still open. The boot was still on the pavement. And now, the figure was stepping out slowly, like he knew exactly how many seconds Liam had left before the sirens arrived. The man from the SUV stepped out like the street belonged to him, slow, controlled, hands loose at his sides. Liam stayed on his knees beside Harper, one palm pressed to her napkin-wrapped cut, the other hovering over the open foam box, steam already thinning in the cold. The delivery driver stood in the road with his phone to his ear, frozen mid-sentence. The stranger's boots crunched through slush until he was only a few yards away. Beanie low, jacket too clean for this block, eyes empty of surprise. He looked down at Harper the way a mechanic looks at an engine, taking in the torn leather, the skull and wings pendant at her throat, the thick silver ring on her finger. "You're doing a lot," he said, voice calm. "For someone you don't know." "She's hurt," Liam answered. "She's trouble," the man corrected. His gaze flicked to Liam's face, then to the food. "And you're hungry?" Liam's stomach twisted. "Ambulance is coming." The man tilted his head, listening. In the distance, faint at first, a siren rose through the wind. A muscle jumped in the man's jaw. He glanced at the delivery driver. "You didn't see anything," he said. I called for help," the driver stammered into the phone. "Hang up," the man said softly, like he was offering a favor. Liam stood up, shaking, and spread his arms wide between the stranger and Harper. "Back off." For the first time, the man looked directly at him, a quick, cold smile. "Kid, you don't get to tell people like me what to do." "Then what are you doing here?" Liam snapped, surprised by his own voice. "If you know her, help her." The man's smile faded. His eyes slid to Harper's face. Harper tried to lift her head, failed, and a sound like a whimper got trapped behind her teeth. Fear sharpened her gaze when she saw him. Blue light flashed at the far end of the street. The siren grew louder, then doubled, another one joining it. The man studied Liam as if memorizing him, then stepped backward, one measured pace at a time. "Lucky night," he murmured. "You get to be a hero." He turned and walked back toward the SUV without hurrying. The door shut. The engine purred. And just before the first cruiser's lights washed the intersection, the SUV rolled into a side street and disappeared like it had never existed. An ambulance swung in hard, tires spraying slush. 2 paramedics jumped out, already moving. "Teen girl," the driver shouted. "Head injury, she's freezing." The female paramedic dropped to her knees. "Sweetheart, can you hear me? Stay with me." She checked Harper's neck, then pressed fresh gauze to the cut. "Cold and bleeding. We're transporting." The male paramedic looked at Liam. "What happened?" "I found her in the road," Liam said fast. "She was fading. I kept her awake. I fed her, small bites, so she wouldn't pass out." The paramedic's eyes flicked to the foam box, then back to Liam. "Step back, buddy. Let us work." Liam stumbled away, arms tight over his bare chest, skin stinging without his hoodie. He watched their hands move. Oxygen mask, blanket, straps tightening, an IV line taped down with a speed that looked unreal. Harper's head turned weakly, searching through the blur until her eyes found Liam. Panic sharpened her gaze in a way pain couldn't dull. Liam leaned close, not touching her, just close enough to be heard. "You're safe. They're taking you in." Her fingers lifted and caught his wrist. The grip was desperate, almost angry, like she was afraid he'd vanish. "Hey," the female paramedic said, gentle but firm. "We need room." Harper didn't let go. Liam lowered his voice. "Who was that guy?" Her lips moved under the mask. The sound was thin. "No." "No what?" She swallowed, fighting the words. "Not police." "I know," Liam whispered. Her hand slid down his wrist, and in the movement, something small and rough pressed into his palm. Cloth, stitched edges. She forced his fingers closed around it like she was transferring weight. Liam looked down for half a second. A dark patch, skull and wings, worn. The thread frayed where it had been pulled on and off 100 times. Not the pendant on her neck. Something older. Something that meant something. He snapped his eyes back up. "Why?" Harper's eyes locked on his, fierce for one beat. Then her lids fluttered. Her voice scraped out, barely there. "Tell my dad." "Your dad?" Liam breathed. Harper's grip slackened. Her head sagged. The female paramedic's tone sharpened. "Pressure's dropping. Move, now." They lifted Harper onto the stretcher with practiced speed. The blanket came down, hiding her face. Wheels squealed on wet pavement as they rolled her toward the ambulance. Liam tried to follow. The male paramedic blocked him with an arm. "You can't ride with us." "But she gave me, hospital staff will contact family," the paramedic said, already turning. "We need to go." The ambulance doors slammed. Then blue and red lights flooded the street again. Different vehicles this time. Police. A cruiser stopped behind the ambulance, another behind it. Doors opened, boots hit the slush. Liam's throat tightened. He knew this routine. Cops didn't see kids like him as witnesses. They saw them as explanations. A thick-necked officer with a shaved head walked up, eyes sweeping the scene. He looked at Liam's bare arms, at the blood on the napkins, at the open food box. "Who are you?" he asked. "Liam," Liam said. "I found her. I called for help." "You got ID?" "No." "Where do you live?" Liam hesitated a fraction too long. The officer's mouth twisted. "That's what I thought." His gaze sharpened. "Why's there blood on you?" "I was helping her." "Uh-huh." The officer stepped closer, voice dropping as if they were sharing a joke. "You touch her pockets?" "No." "You take anything?" "No." The delivery driver tried to speak. "Officer, he ran into traffic. He saved her." The officer lifted a hand without looking at him. "You want to make a statement? Great. Come down to the station tomorrow, or go home." His eyes slid back to Liam. "This is between me and him." The ambulance engine revved. Liam turned his head in panic. "Wait, where are you taking her?" "County," someone called from inside. The ambulance pulled away, siren rising, blue lights streaking down the wet street. Harper was gone. The officer placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, not gentle, claiming. "You're coming with us." Liam's stomach dropped. "I didn't do anything." "That's not how this works," the officer said. He tightened his grip when Liam flinched. "Don't make it worse." An older female officer approached, eyes tired, scanning Liam's shaking arms. "He's a kid," she said. "Get him something warm." The shaved-head officer ignored her. He shoved Liam against the cruiser's hood. Cold metal slapped Liam's cheek. "Hands where I can see them." Liam spread his fingers on the hood, fighting the urge to open his fist. The patch Harper gave him was crumpled in his palm, hot against his skin like a secret. The officer frisked him fast and rough, ripping the empty takeout bag away like evidence. "Look at this," he muttered. "Right." "I bought that," Liam said, voice thin. "I paid." "With what? Magic?" The officer's eyes narrowed. "You people always have a story." The older officer's jaw tightened. "Haskins." Haskins pulled out cuffs. The sound of metal made Liam's vision blur. He forced himself to stay still. Running would only prove whatever they wanted to believe. The cuffs snapped around his wrists, too tight, biting. Liam sucked in a breath. "Sir," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "She told me to tell her dad. She's scared. Someone was watching us. That SUV." Haskins jerked Liam's arms up behind his back until pain shot through his shoulders. "Sure, the mysterious SUV. Convenient." He leaned close, breath sour. "Here's what's convenient. A homeless kid, no ID, covered in blood." Liam's teeth clenched. He didn't cry. He wouldn't give them that. Haskins hauled him toward the back seat. The older officer hovered, torn between duty and disgust, then looked away like she'd seen this too many times to fight it. As Liam was shoved toward the open door, he twisted his head and searched the dark side of the street one last time. Across the intersection, near the closed laundromat, a man stood half in shadow. Sleeveless vest despite the cold, patches on the back. He wasn't a cop, he wasn't a bystander, and he'd been there the whole time, watching Liam, not Harper. Their eyes met. The man's expression didn't say thank you. It said, "I saw what you did, and now you're part of it." He lifted a phone to his ear and spoke one quiet sentence too far away for Liam to hear. Then he turned and disappeared into the darkness before anyone else even noticed he had been there. The cruiser smelled like old coffee and wet rubber. Liam sat sideways in the back seat because his wrists were cuffed behind him, shoulders pulled tight until his arms started to go numb. Every bump sent the metal biting deeper. Haskins drove like he wanted Liam to feel every pothole. His partner in the passenger seat didn't look back once. "You got a name, right?" Haskins said, eyes on the road. "Or you just go by, 'Hey, you'?" "Liam," Liam answered, voice tight. Haskins snorted. "Liam, cute. How old are you, Liam?" 14. A laugh that didn't have humor in it. 14, sure. "I am." "Uh-huh." Haskins flicked the turn signal like it was an insult. "So you're telling me you just happened to stumble onto a teenage girl bleeding out. You fed her a snack and then a mystery SUV tried to scare you off." "It happened." "What really happened?" Haskins asked, and even without looking back, Liam could hear the grin. You two meet up for a little fun. Things go sideways. She hits her head and suddenly you're St. Liam of the sidewalk. Liam's stomach twisted. No, I didn't touch her like that. Right. Haskins pulled onto a darker street, the kind that ran behind warehouses and garages. No houses, no cameras. Then why were you covered in blood? I pressed napkins on her head. You pressed, Haskins repeated like the word tasted bad. That's what you're going with. Liam stared at the cage divider, trying not to let the fear show. His fingers were cramped around the patch Harper had shoved into his palm. He'd kept it trapped between his skin and the edge of the cuff, a rough square of cloth that scratched and reminded him she'd been real. His mind replayed her eyes when she saw the man from the SUV. Not confusion, recognition without knowing, pure warning. They drove past the closed diner again. Liam caught a glimpse of the sidewalk where Harper had been, now empty except for smeared blood and crushed napkins, like the street was already erasing her. The station was a low brick building with fluorescent lights that made everything look sick. Haskins yanked Liam out of the back seat and shoved him forward by the elbow. Walk, he ordered. Inside the air was warmer, but it didn't help. Liam's bare arms prickled, the cold still inside his skin. A desk sergeant looked up, glanced at Liam once, then went back to his screen like Liam was paperwork that walked. Found him at the scene, Haskins said. No ID blood on him, says he saved her. The sergeant's eyes slid over Liam's face and stopped on the cuffed wrists. Name? Liam. Last name? Liam swallowed. I don't. Haskins leaned in, low and hard. You don't have a last name now? Liam's throat burned. Miller. He didn't know why he said it. It was the first common name that came to mind. The kind of name that could belong to anybody. The kind of name that might keep them from finding whatever was left of his family, if anyone was left. The sergeant typed. Date of birth? Liam gave it. The sergeant didn't check. No one checked anything when you looked like Liam. They took his fingerprints with ink that stained his cuticles black. They took his photo against a wall with peeling paint. Haskins watched the camera flash like he enjoyed it. Then they made him empty his pockets. Liam had nothing. A crumpled receipt for the food, now torn, a paperclip, a flattened coin he kept as a worry stone. Haskins reached for Liam's cuffed hands. Open your fists. Liam's heartbeat punched his ribs. If they saw the patch, they'd take it. They'd throw it in a bag, lose it, laugh about it. And Harper's whisper would die in a plastic bin. My hands, I can't, Liam said, twisting slightly. The cuffs. Haskins jerked the chain between the cuffs until pain shot up Liam's arms. Open! Your hands. Liam forced his fingers apart. The patch slid, stuck for half a second to the sweat on his palm, then dropped toward the floor. Liam reacted without thinking, catching it with 2 fingers before it hit the tile. It was small enough, fast enough. Haskins' eyes narrowed. What's that? Nothing, Liam said too quickly. Haskins stepped in. Nothing is what you have in your pocket. That's something. Liam's mind raced. It's mine. Haskins held out his hand. Give it. Liam didn't move. Haskins grabbed Liam's wrist and pried at his fingers. Liam held on, knuckles white, panic turning his vision hot. A voice cut in from behind them. Haskins. An older female officer stood near the doorway, coffee in one hand, her expression flat in a way that didn't match her eyes. She'd been at the street. She'd watched them cuff him. Haskins didn't let go. He's got something. I said, she repeated sharper, Haskins. For a second, the room was still. Then, Haskins released Liam's wrist like it disgusted him. Put him in interview, the older officer said. We'll do this right. Haskins sneered. We are doing it right. Interview, she repeated. Haskins shoved Liam toward a narrow hallway. Liam stumbled, catching himself against the wall. The interview room was colder than outside. A metal table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. A camera in the corner with a red light that meant someone was always watching. They uncuffed him just long enough to chain one wrist to the table ring. Liam flexed his fingers, trying to get feeling back, then slid the patch into his sleeve and pressed his forearm down so it wouldn't fall out. Haskins sat across from him and leaned back like he had all night. Let's make this easy, he said. You tell me what you did, and I can talk the hospital into not pushing charges. I didn't do anything, Liam said. I helped her. Helped her how? Haskins asked, voice casual, eyes sharp. I fed her, small bites. She was fading. Haskins tapped the table. You fed her? Yes. With your hands? Yes. Did you touch her anywhere else? No. You sure? Haskins asked softly. Because when a girl shows up with no phone, no witness except the homeless kid with blood on him, and she can't talk yet, that homeless kid becomes the story? Liam's breath caught. She can talk. She did talk. Haskins' eyebrows lifted. Oh yeah? What did she say? Liam hesitated. The words felt like a fragile thing. If he said them wrong, if he said too much, they'd twist it. She said, Liam swallowed. She said, tell my dad. Haskins laughed once, sharp. Tell my dad. Great. So now she has a dad, and he's going to come down here and clap for you? Liam stared at him. She was scared of someone. There was an SUV watching. The man tried to stop the call. Haskins' smile faded. You keep talking about that SUV. It was real. Or, Haskins said, leaning forward, it's a ghost you invented because you know what happens when you're the last person seen with a girl bleeding in the street. Liam's mouth went dry. Ask the delivery driver. He saw it too. We'll see, Haskins said, and the way he said it made Liam's stomach drop. The door opened. The older officer stepped in, closed it behind her, and didn't sit. She looked at Liam, then at Haskins. Dispatch says the hospital got an ID, she said. Haskins' head turned. Who is she? The older officer's jaw tightened, like she didn't like the name in her own mouth. Harper Mercer. The room changed instantly. Even Liam felt it, the way the air got heavier without moving. Haskins' eyes narrowed. Mercer as in Jack Mercer, the older officer said, and the hospital notified family. Haskins leaned back slowly. The confidence didn't leave his face, but something else entered. Calculation. Fear, buried deep enough to look like irritation. Liam's heart hammered. Mercer. The name meant nothing to him, but it meant everything to them. Bring me the file, Haskins ordered. There is no file yet, the older officer snapped. There's a girl in trauma and a kid in cuffs. Haskins stood. Don't lecture me. The older officer stepped closer, voice low. If that's who I think it is, you don't get sloppy tonight. Haskins' nostrils flared. For a second, Liam thought Haskins might explode at her. Instead, he grabbed the door handle and yanked it open. I'm going to call the sheriff, he muttered. He left. The door slammed. The older officer remained, eyes on Liam. Not kind, not cruel, tired. You said she told you to tell her dad, she said. Yes. And you're sure she said dad? Yes. She studied his face as if trying to decide if he was worth believing. What else did she say? That's it, Liam lied. The patch in his sleeve scratched his skin like a warning. If this woman was the only one in the building with a conscience, he still couldn't gamble Harper's last message on her. The older officer exhaled through her nose. You have no idea what kind of night you stumbled into. I didn't stumble, Liam said, voice shaking. I chose. Her eyes flicked just for a moment, like that landed somewhere. Then she turned toward the door. Someone's coming, she said. A detective. He'll want your statement on record. Give him the truth, all of it, not the parts you think protect you. Then she left, and Liam was alone with the camera's red light and the metal chain on his wrist. Minutes dragged. Liam counted his breaths to keep his panic from turning into something loud and stupid. Footsteps finally approached, quick, purposeful. The door opened and a man walked in who wasn't wearing patrol swagger. Mid-30s, clean coat, tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much to enjoy bullying kids. He didn't sit right away. He looked at Liam's wrist chained to the table, at the bruising already forming, and his jaw tightened. I'm Detective Brandt, he said. You're Liam Miller? Liam nodded. Brandt held up a notepad. Start from the moment you first saw her. Liam spoke fast, afraid every second mattered. The meal, the streetlight, the blood, feeding her bites, the SUV. The man's voice telling the driver not to see anything. Harper's fear. Brandt's eyes didn't wander. He listened like each detail was a brick. When Liam finished, Brandt asked one question that made Liam's pulse jump. What did she put in your hand? Liam froze. Nothing. Brandt's gaze sharpened. Kid. The paramedic said she was clutching her fist like she gave something away, and you've been guarding that left sleeve like it's a wound. Liam's throat tightened. If I show you, you won't lose it? Brandt didn't answer with comfort. He answered with truth. I can't promise you what other people in this building will do. I can only tell you this. If she's a Mercer, you don't want to be the person hiding a message meant for her father. Liam's fingers trembled as he slid the patch out of his sleeve and set it on the table. For the first time, Brandt's expression cracked. He didn't touch it. He just stared, then slowly looked up at Liam like he was seeing him clearly for the first time. Where did you get this? Brandt asked, voice lower. She shoved it into my hand, Liam whispered, and she said, tell my dad. Brandt exhaled once, controlled. He stood and walked to the door, opening it just enough to speak into the hallway. Get me a unit, he said quietly. We're going to county. Now. Haskins appeared at the doorway like he'd been waiting to pounce. What the hell is this? Brandt didn't blink. This kid is not staying here. He's coming with me. He's a suspect, Haskins snapped. He's a witness, Brandt cut in, voice flat. And if you don't understand the difference tonight, you're going to learn it in front of people who don't care about your badge. Haskins's face tightened. You're making a mistake. Brandt leaned in just enough that Liam could feel the pressure shift. No, Brandt said. You did. Brandt took the chain key and unlocked Liam from the table. He didn't take the cuffs off, just moved them to the front. You stay close, Brandt told Liam. You don't run. You don't talk to anyone unless I say. You understand me? Liam nodded, throat too tight to speak. They moved through the station fast. The older officer watched from the desk, eyes following the patch in Liam's hands like she understood what it meant and didn't want to. Outside, cold air hit Liam again. Brandt guided him into the back of a different cruiser, not Haskins's. As they pulled out, Brandt's radio crackled, a dispatcher's voice tense now. County ER advises multiple motorcyclists already arriving on site. Security requests assistance. Brandt's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Liam stared out the window at the wet street sliding past, at the hospital lights growing brighter in the distance, and tried to swallow the fear climbing up his throat. Because whatever Mercer meant, the police were scared of it, and they were taking him straight into the middle of it. County Hospital sat on the edge of town, like a bunker. Flat concrete, harsh lights, the kind of place people didn't visit unless they were bleeding or breaking. Tonight, it looked like a scene out of a disaster movie. Motorcycles were everywhere, not just a few, lines of them, parked crooked along the curb, idling in the ambulance bay, stacked in rows that swallowed the visitor lot. Headlights cut through mist, exhaust hung low over the slush like breath from a giant animal. Liam pressed his forehead to the cruiser window, trying to understand what he was seeing. Detective Brandt slowed at the entrance and flashed his badge to a security guard who looked ready to faint. The guard waved them through like he wanted them gone from his life. As they rolled closer, men turned their heads in unison, heavy cuts, patches, boots, faces like carved stone. Not all of them big, but all of them still, like nothing around them could surprise them anymore. Brandt's radio crackled again. Additional units requested. Situation escalating. Brandt didn't answer. He just parked as close to the ER doors as he could without driving over a bike, then turned halfway in his seat. Listen, he said, voice low. You say nothing unless I tell you. You keep your hands where they can see them. If someone asks your name, you look at me first. Liam nodded. The cuffs in front of him were loose enough to move, tight enough to remind him he wasn't free. Brandt stepped out first and scanned the lot. It wasn't a crowd. Crowds move. This was a wall of people who had decided where they were going to stand. A man broke from the line and walked toward them. Not aggressive, not friendly, just direct, like a bullet with manners. Gray in his beard, broad shoulders, eyes that measured Brandt first and Liam second. He stopped a few feet away. Detective, he said, as if they'd met before. Brandt stiffened. Tate. Liam caught the name like a hook. The biker wasn't a random member. Brandt knew him. Tate's gaze slid to Liam's cuffs. No expression changed, but something in the air did, as if a door clicked shut. That the kid? Tate asked. Brandt's jaw tightened. He's a witness, not a suspect. Tate's eyes stayed on the cuffs. Sure. Brandt took a breath. Harper Mercer's inside. Tate didn't blink. We know. Brandt's throat bobbed when he swallowed. She gave him something. Tate's eyes finally met Liam's. They weren't cruel. They were colder than that, like they didn't waste heat on emotions they couldn't afford. "Show me," Tate said. Brandt looked at Liam. "Do it slowly." Liam's fingers shook as he lifted the patch from his palm. He held it out, stitched skull and wings facing forward. The nearest bikers leaned slightly, just enough to see. No one spoke. But the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was packed tight. Tate's face shifted by a fraction. Recognition. Something like grief, quickly buried. "That's hers," Tate said. "She pressed it into my hand," Liam said, voice raw. "And she said, 'Tell my dad.'" At the word "dad," the air snapped. The ER doors opened, and a nurse stepped out with her phone clutched in both hands. She looked toward the bikes, toward the men, and her eyes went wide like she wanted to run back inside. Then she spotted Brandt and hurried over, breath fogging. "Detective, security is... There are too many of them." Tate didn't turn. "She stable?" The nurse froze. She's in trauma. They're trying." Tate's jaw tightened. "Trying isn't an answer." "Please," the nurse said, voice cracking. "We have protocols." The doors slammed again from inside, harder this time. The sound carried like a warning. Tate lifted his hand, not a fist, a flat palm. The men behind him didn't move, but their posture changed, attention sharpening toward the doors. "Brandt," Tate said quietly, "you bring that kid into the building wearing cuffs, you're going to start something you can't finish." Brandt's eyes flicked to the mass of bikers, then back. "I'm not here to start anything. I'm here to keep him alive long enough to say what he knows." Tate stared at him. "Then uncuff him." Brandt hesitated. Tate's voice didn't rise. "Now." Brandt's hand went to his belt. He pulled out a key, stepped close to Liam, and unlocked one cuff, then the other. The metal dropped into Brandt's palm. Liam rubbed his wrists, red and swollen. He expected relief. Instead, he felt exposed, like a target without armor. Tate watched Liam's wrist for a beat, then nodded once, an approval Liam didn't want to need. "Stay by me," Brandt whispered to Liam. They moved toward the doors. The moment Liam stepped onto the ER sidewalk, a man far back in the crowd turned his head and stared at him with open contempt. Young, tattooed neck, the kind of energy that wanted to spill violence just to feel powerful. Another biker, older, bigger, shifted and blocked that stare with his body without a word, like a curtain pulled closed. Liam felt his throat tighten. These people were dangerous. But the danger had rules, and right now those rules were keeping him from being eaten alive. Inside the ER, chaos didn't look like screams. It looked like people walking too fast, voices clipped, carts shoved around corners, eyes sliding away from the sight of leather vests filling the lobby. Security tried to form a line. It dissolved as soon as Tate stepped through, not pushing, not threatening, just existing. They reached a set of double doors marked trauma. A doctor in scrubs stood in front of them, hands up as if she could stop a storm with her palms. "You can't be back here," she said. "Only family." Tate's eyes were locked on the doors like he could see through them. "Her father here?" The doctor swallowed. "He's on his way." Tate nodded as if that was the only thing that mattered. Then he looked at Brandt. "He knows where she fell?" Brandt's face tightened. "He found her. He kept her awake. Someone tried to stop the call." "Someone," Tate repeated, and the word sounded like a threat promised to the right person. A nurse rushed up with a tablet clutched to her chest. "We need the father's consent for..." The nurse stopped dead as the automatic doors at the far end of the hall slid open. The hallway didn't get louder. It got quieter. A man walked in with two others behind him. No cut, no patches, just a black coat, broad shoulders, and eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to sleep a long time ago. He moved with purpose, not speed, like he didn't have to hurry because everything else would get out of his way. And it did. The doctor stepped aside. Security stepped aside. Even Brandt straightened as if the air had turned to stone. Tate took one step forward. "Jack?" Jack Mercer's gaze hit Tate first, then Brandt, then, finally, Liam. It wasn't the look of a man asking questions. It was the look of a man searching for the one throat he needed to close to make sense of his pain. Jack's eyes dropped to Liam's bruised wrists, then to the patch in Liam's hand. Jack's face didn't change. but something in the muscles around his mouth tightened like a cable pulled taut. "Where is she?" Jack asked. "In trauma," the doctor said quickly. "Critical. Head injury, hypothermia, blood loss. We're doing everything." Jack didn't nod. He didn't thank her. His eyes stayed on Liam. "Who are you?" Liam's mouth went dry. Brandt started to speak. Jack lifted a hand and silenced him without looking. "He answers." Liam forced air into his lungs. "I'm Liam." Jack took a slow step closer. Liam could smell cold air and something metallic on him, like winter and engines. "What did you do to my daughter?" Jack asked, voice quiet enough to be worse. Every instinct in Liam screamed to back up, to run, to disappear. But there was nowhere to go. The hallway had become a tunnel with Jack at the end. "I found her," Liam said, voice shaking. "She was on the road. She was fading. I fed her. I kept her awake. I called for help." Jack stared at him like he was looking for a crack. "You fed her?" "Yes," Liam said. "My last meal." A flicker crossed Jack's eyes, something fast and ugly, like a man realizing the world is capable of kindness and hating it because it makes everything more complicated. Tate spoke softly behind Jack. "He's telling the truth." Jack didn't turn. "How do you know?" "I was there," Tate said. "Not close, but I saw. Kid didn't take nothing. Kid didn't run." Jack's nostrils flared. His gaze snapped back to Liam's hands. "What's that?" Liam lifted the patch, fingers trembling. "She gave it to me. She said, 'Tell my dad.'" Jack's eyes locked onto the stitched skull and wings. For the first time, his control wavered. It wasn't softness. It was something deeper, recognition mixed with fear, like that patch was a piece of her he might never get back. He reached out, stopped inches from it, then pulled his hand away like touching it would break him. "What else did she say?" Jack asked. Liam heard Brandt inhale sharply behind him. Liam felt every gaze in the hall narrow onto his mouth, waiting. If he answered wrong, he'd die. If he answered right, he might still die, just later. Liam swallowed hard. She was scared. She saw someone watching, an SUV. A man tried to stop the call. Jack's face went still. "An SUV," he repeated. Tate's jaw tightened. "What kind?" Liam tried to remember. "Dark, big, no plates on the front. The guy wore a beanie. He told the driver he didn't see anything." Jack's eyes drifted away from Liam, focusing on something only he could see. When he spoke again, his voice was colder. "Get every camera on this hospital," Jack said, not to anyone specific. "Parking lot, streets, ambulance bay." A biker behind him murmured into a phone and walked away immediately. Jack's gaze snapped back to Liam. "If you're lying." "I'm not," Liam said, and he surprised himself with how certain he sounded. She was terrified of him. Jack stared at him for a long beat. Then the trauma doors cracked open and a surgeon stepped out, face pale, hands still gloved. "Mr. Mercer," the surgeon said carefully, "we need you." Jack didn't move. His eyes stayed on Liam. "What is he doing here?" Jack asked Brandt without looking away. Brandt answered steady. "He's the reason she's alive, and someone's trying to make him disappear." The surgeon's voice sharpened. "Now, we're losing time." Jack finally turned toward the trauma doors, but the moment he did, Liam felt the pressure shift, like the room exhaled and remembered to breathe. Jack paused with his hand on the door edge. He didn't look back, but his voice carried down the hall like a verdict. "Tate," he said, "the kid stays. No one touches him." Then he disappeared into trauma. Liam stood frozen, patch still in his hand, wrists burning, heart pounding. Brandt leaned in close, voice barely above a whisper. "You hear what he just said?" Liam nodded, not trusting his own voice. Tate's eyes stayed on the trauma doors for a moment. Then he turned to Liam, fully, finally, and his tone was low and absolute. "Doesn't matter who you were yesterday," Tate said. "Tonight you're under our roof." And before Liam could ask what that meant, the hospital's front doors slid open again, wide this time, letting in a fresh gust of cold air and the sound of more engines arriving. A lot more. The new wave of engines didn't sound like excitement. It sounded like weather, low, rolling thunder that made the hospital glass tremble. Through the lobby windows, Liam watched headlights sweep across the slush in long lines, bikes stacking into the lot until there was nowhere left to park without blocking the exits. Security guards whispered into radios that nobody answered fast enough. A receptionist tried to close the sliding doors, then stopped when she realized who she'd be locking outside. Tate stayed near Liam like an anchor, not touching him, not crowding him, just close enough that anyone with bad ideas would have to walk through Tate first. Brandt moved like he'd turned into a different person, less detective, more traffic controller. He spoke to nurses, pointed, nodded, tried to keep the hospital from turning into a spark. Liam stood under harsh fluorescent light, holding Harper's patch like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. His stomach growled so loudly he was sure someone could hear it. He hadn't eaten since he started feeding Harper. He hadn't even noticed until now. A young biker with a shaved head and a scabbed knuckle looked Liam up and down like Liam was something stuck to his boot. "That the kid?" he muttered to no one. Another biker, older, thick-necked, with gray in his beard, shifted between them without turning his head. No argument, just a wall. The young one's eyes flashed. "What, we're adopting strays now?" The older biker's voice was calm, bored. "We're honoring a debt." "Debt?" the young one scoffed. "To a homeless kid." The older biker finally turned his head just slightly. "To the kid who kept her breathing." The young biker's mouth tightened, but he looked away. Not because he agreed, because he understood the pecking order and didn't want to test it. Liam swallowed, throat tight. He didn't want their debt. He wanted to stop shaking. Tate glanced at him. "You eaten?" Liam almost lied. Pride tried to rise and hunger punched it back down. "Not since earlier." Tate reached into his vest, pulled out a folded bill and held it out. Liam stared at it like it was a trap. "I can't." "You can," Tate said. "Don't make it weird." "I don't want." Tate's eyes sharpened. "Kid, you're not taking charity. You're taking a meal so you don't pass out in front of her father. Take it." Liam's fingers closed around the bill, trembling. "Over there," Tate nodded toward a vending machine corner. "Brandt will watch you. Don't wander." Brandt caught Liam's movement and followed with his eyes. "Go," he said quietly. "I'll cover you." Liam walked to the vending machines, every step feeling like he was walking through a story he didn't belong in. He fed the bill into the slot. The machine spat it back. He tried again. Spat back. His cheeks burned. The bill was damp from Tate's pocket, wrinkled in a way the machine refused to accept. Behind him, the young biker laughed under his breath. Liam crushed the bill in his fist, fighting the urge to throw it away. Hunger made you desperate. Desperation made you stupid. A nurse passed by with a tray and stopped when she saw Liam. Her eyes flicked to his bruised wrists and the patch in his hand. She didn't ask questions. She just reached into her pocket, pulled out a protein bar, and shoved it into Liam's palm like she was smuggling contraband. "Eat," she whispered, then kept walking like nothing happened. Liam's throat tightened so hard it hurt. He tore the wrapper with his teeth and took 2 fast bites before his brain could argue. The sweetness hit his tongue and his stomach clenched in relief and pain at the same time. He forced himself to slow down. He'd learned the hard way that eating too fast after going hungry could make you sick. He took smaller bites, swallowing carefully. Behind him, Brandt's voice rose slightly. "We need to keep the hallway clear," a biker's voice answered, low and hard. "We are keeping it clear." Liam turned. More men had entered the lobby. They didn't push. They didn't shout. They just filled every open space until the hospital looked like it had grown leather walls. And then the real change happened. The automatic doors near the ambulance bay opened and a group of uniformed deputies walked in, 4 of them, hands near their belts, eyes too bright. Liam recognized one immediately even from across the room. Sheriff Colton Rourke. He didn't look like Haskins. Haskins was a bully. Rourke looked like a man who believed he owned the town and hated being reminded he didn't own everyone in it. He stepped into the lobby, surveyed the bikes, the vests, the mass of people, and smiled like he'd just walked onto a stage. "Well," Rourke said, voice carrying, "this is a welcoming committee." No one moved. Tate's shoulders squared by a fraction. Brandt's jaw tightened. Rourke's eyes slid across the lobby until they landed on Liam. The sheriff's smile sharpened into something pleased, like he'd found the easiest piece on the board. "There he is," Rourke said. A deputy took 1 step forward. Brandt moved first, positioning himself between the sheriff and Liam. "Sheriff, this is a hospital." Rourke raised both hands slightly, mock peaceful. Relax, detective. I'm not here to start trouble. He tilted his head toward Tate and the crowd, though it looks like someone else did. Tate's voice was calm. You got a reason to be here, Rourke? Rourke's eyes narrowed at the fact Tate used his last name like he was equal. I got a call. A girl was found bleeding in the street. A minor was involved. His gaze cut back to Liam. A homeless minor. Liam felt cold crawl up his spine. Brandt held his ground. He's a witness. Rourke hummed as if considering. Maybe. Or maybe he's the last person seen with her. Maybe we should do what we always do in a situation like this and bring him in for a proper interview. Brandt's voice was sharper. He already gave a statement. To you, Rourke said, not to me. A deputy shifted, hand hovering near cuffs. Tate's head turned slowly, not threatening, worse, measuring. Jack said no one touches him. Rourke smiled wider, showing teeth. Jack Mercer doesn't run this county, Tate. I do. The lobby temperature seemed to drop. Even the receptionist behind the desk stopped typing. Brandt spoke, controlled. Sheriff, Harper is critical. Your priority should be finding who hurt her, not harassing the kid who kept her alive. Rourke's eyes didn't blink. Who says he kept her alive? Liam's stomach tightened. The sheriff was building something, word by word. Rourke took a half step forward, voice sweet. Liam, right? Tell me again how you helped her. Brandt cut in. He doesn't answer questions without counsel. Rourke laughed. Counsel? For a homeless kid? He looked around the lobby, making it a show. Is this what we're doing now? We're lawyering up street kids because a biker club marched into my hospital? Tate's voice was flat. Don't call it your hospital. Rourke ignored him. Son, he said to Liam, voice suddenly gentle, like he was talking to a scared animal. If you're innocent, you have nothing to hide. Come with us. We'll clear this up. Liam's mouth went dry. It sounded reasonable if you didn't know what cops did to kids with no one to vouch for them. Brandt leaned toward Liam, barely moving his lips. Don't say a word. Liam nodded, but the sheriff's attention was a pressure on his skin. Rourke's gaze flicked to Liam's hands. What's that you're holding? Liam instinctively closed his fist around the wrapper and the patch behind it. Rourke's eyes sharpened. Open your hand. Brandt stepped forward. Sheriff. Rourke's voice hardened without getting louder. Detective, move. For one terrible second, Liam imagined it. Deputies grabbing him, ripping the patch away, throwing him back in a cruiser. He imagined Harper waking up and nobody believing she'd given him anything. He imagined the SUV man smiling somewhere in the dark because the message got buried. And then a door down the hall opened. The trauma doors. A doctor stepped out fast, eyes scanning until she found Tate. Mr. Mercer is requesting Tate now. Tate turned to Brandt. You stay with the kid. Then Tate walked toward the trauma doors, past the sheriff not acknowledging him, and the crowd of bikers shifted just enough to make a path. Rourke watched Tate go, smile tightening into irritation. Then his eyes returned to Liam. You hear that? Rourke said, voice low now, meant only for Liam and the people close enough to be dangerous. This is a mess, and messes need someone to blame. You want to be the easiest choice? Liam's heart hammered. Brandt's voice cut like a blade. Sheriff, back off. Rourke leaned in a fraction, eyes bright. Or what? Brandt didn't flinch. Or you explained to Jack Mercer why you tried to put cuffs on the kid he just claimed. Rourke's smile returned, thin. Jack Mercer's emotional. Grief makes men irrational. I'm the one here to keep order. He straightened and nodded to his deputy. Bring the kid. Brandt's hand went to his holster without touching it. A tiny movement, a warning. The bikers in the lobby shifted, just a little. The sound of leather creaking was louder than any shout. Rourke's gaze flicked over them, calculating. He didn't want to fight in front of cameras. So he changed tactics. Fine, he said, louder, turning it into a performance again. Let's do it another way. He pointed toward Brandt. Detective, you and the kid come with me. Quiet room, no crowd, just facts. If he's innocent, he walks. If he's not, he shrugged like it was simple. Brandt didn't move. Rourke's smile widened. Unless you're afraid of what he might say without you holding his hand. Liam felt Brandt's tension like heat beside him, and then the overhead TV in the lobby flickered, switching from daytime talk to breaking news. Someone at the desk had turned it on to fill the silence, and now it betrayed them. A headline crawled across the screen. Local biker leader's daughter in critical condition. Rourke's eyes lifted to it, then back to the crowd, and Liam saw the decision click into place behind the sheriff's gaze. This wasn't just a hospital moment anymore. It was going to be public, and if Rourke could control the story, he could control everything. He raised his voice, speaking to the lobby like he was speaking to the whole town. For everyone's safety, I'm placing this witness into protective custody. Brandt snapped, "That's not what you're doing." Rourke cut him off, pointing at Liam. "You heard me. Kid comes with us." A deputy stepped forward, hand already reaching for cuffs. Liam's body went cold, because at the far edge of the lobby, near the glass doors, Liam saw something that made his blood drain even more than the sheriff's threat. The man in the beanie. Not outside. Not in an SUV. Inside the hospital. Standing half behind a pillar like he belonged there, watching Liam with that same patient, empty stare. And when their eyes met, the man lifted his hand and made a small motion, 2 fingers tapping his own chest, then pointing outward. A silent message Liam understood without knowing how. We're still here. The deputy's hand was halfway to Liam's arm when Brandt stepped in front of him, clean, quick, like a door slamming shut. "No," Brandt said. Sheriff Rourke's smile didn't move, but his eyes hardened. "Detective, don't make me repeat myself." Brandt's voice stayed even. "You can call it protective custody all you want. You put cuffs on this kid. You're starting a fight in a hospital." Rourke glanced past Brandt at the lobby full of vests like he was counting barrels of gasoline. He lowered his voice just enough to sound reasonable. "I'm preventing one," he said. "That crowd thinks they own this building. I'm removing the catalyst." Liam didn't move. His eyes were locked on the beanie man near the pillar. The beanie man didn't look away. He didn't flinch. He just watched, hands relaxed at his sides like he was waiting for the moment the sheriff's plan made Liam reachable. Liam's skin prickled. He shifted his weight slightly, trying to keep Brandt and Tate's people between him and that pillar. Brandt turned his head a fraction. "Liam, eyes on me." Liam forced himself to look at Brandt. Brandt's lips barely moved. "Do not acknowledge anyone else, you understand?" Liam nodded, throat tight. Rourke raised his voice again, playing to the room. "Everyone calm down. We're doing this by procedure." A biker laughed quietly somewhere, low and humorless. Rourke's jaw tightened. He tried another angle, tone smooth as oil. "Kid, Liam, you want to help Harper? Then cooperate. Come with me. Tell me what you saw. We'll find the guy who did this." Liam's mouth went dry. The sheriff was offering the right words with the wrong eyes. Brandt cut in. "He already told you what he saw. An SUV, a man trying to stop the call. That's your lead. Go chase it." Rourke leaned closer, voice soft enough to be private. "Detective, I'm giving you a chance to be smart." Brandt didn't blink. "I am being smart." Rourke's eyes flicked toward Liam's hands. "What's he holding?" Liam's fist tightened instinctively around the wrapper and the patch hidden behind it. Rourke's gaze sharpened like a blade catching light. "Open it." Brandt moved half a step to block the line of sight. "No." A silence dropped, heavy. Then the trauma doors opened again. Not the surgeon this time. Tate. He came out fast, his face like stone, but his eyes burning with something urgent. He scanned the lobby, locked onto Liam, then Brandt, then the sheriff. Tate walked straight toward them. Rourke spread his hands, smiling like he'd been waiting for this. "Tate, tell your boys to back up. I'm taking the witness." Tate didn't stop until he was close enough that Liam could smell winter and leather on him. "Jack's awake," Tate said. That sentence hit the room like a hammer, not because Jack Mercer woke up, because the only reason Tate would say it like that was because Jack had been asleep emotionally, drowning in trauma bay fear, and now he'd snapped back into control. Rourke's smile tightened. Good. He can hear this then. Tate's eyes stayed on Rourke. Harper spoke. Liam's heart slammed. Rourke's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. Quick, sharp, and hidden. Fear of an unpredictable variable. Tate turned to Brandt. "Kid needs to hear it too. Jack wants him back there. For 1 minute." The doctor at the trauma doors appeared behind Tate, tense, clearly hating every second of this. 1 minute, she said, and no crowd, one person. Rourke stepped forward. "Absolutely not. That's evidence contamination. Witness in critical incident goes nowhere without..." Tate cut him off with a look that didn't shout, but somehow silenced the air. Jack said 1 minute. Rourke's nostrils flared. Jack doesn't. Tate leaned in, voice low. Sheriff, you can posture, or you can survive tonight. Pick. For a heartbeat, Rourke looked like he might push it anyway. Then he saw what Liam saw, movement at the lobby edges as more bikers turned their attention toward the sheriff. Not hands on weapons. Worse, hands going still. The kind of stillness that meant discipline, not chaos. Rourke exhaled, smile returning like a mask. Fine, he said. 1 minute. Detective, you're responsible. Brandt nodded once. Tate gestured toward the trauma doors. Liam's legs felt like they didn't belong to him, but he moved anyway, following Brandt and Tate down the hall. The fluorescent lights above buzzed like a warning. As they passed the pillar, Liam kept his gaze forward, but he felt it, the beanie man's presence shifting, like a predator tracking a wounded animal through brush. They reached the trauma doors. The doctor stopped them. Only the kid, she said, eyes on Brandt, and he stays by the wall. Brandt looked at Liam. You're safe, he whispered. Go, say nothing unless asked. Liam stepped through the doors. The air inside trauma was warmer, brighter, packed with machines and voices. Nurses moved with purpose around beds and equipment. The smell of antiseptic was sharp enough to sting his nose. Harper lay on a gurney, still, wires and tape everywhere. Her face was paler than the streetlight made it look, but her eyes were open. Jack Mercer stood beside her bed like a guard tower, one hand braced on the rail, the other hovering near her hair without touching. His face was carved out of exhaustion and fury held in check. When Harper's eyes found Liam, something changed in them. Not fear this time. Recognition. She tried to speak and winced. Easy, Jack said softly, and that softness shocked Liam more than anything else tonight. Don't push. Harper's gaze stayed on Liam. Her lips moved. Jack looked at Liam. Come closer. Liam's heart hammered as he approached the wall near the bed, stopping where the doctor indicated. Jack's eyes flicked to Liam's bruised wrists. They did that? Liam didn't answer fast enough. His throat was locked. Jack didn't wait. He leaned closer to Harper. Tell me, is this the kid? Harper's eyes blinked once. Slow. Yes. Jack's jaw clenched. He looked at Liam again. You fed her. Liam swallowed. Yes. Harper's hand, weak but determined, lifted off the blanket, fingers trembling. She reached toward Liam. Jack gently supported her wrist, guiding it. Harper's fingertips brushed Liam's forearm, then her hand closed around his sleeve. Barely a grip, but a decision. Her voice came out thin, scraped, but clearer than Liam expected. Thank you, she whispered. Liam's vision blurred. He nodded once because if he tried to speak, something in him would break. Harper's eyes shifted to Jack. She swallowed hard, then forced the words out like they cost her. Dad, it wasn't accident. Jack's entire body went still. Harper's eyes squeezed shut, then opened again, fighting. They chased me. Jack leaned in. Who? Harper's lips trembled. Not them. Her eyes flicked toward the lobby direction, toward the bikers, as if she meant the club. Jack's voice was low, deadly calm. Then who? Harper drew a shaky breath. Badge. The word hit the room like a gunshot. Liam felt the hair rise on his arms. Jack's eyes didn't widen, they narrowed, like a man finally seeing the shape of the knife. Harper's voice strained. Sheriff. Man. With him. In dark car. Jack's jaw flexed. Rourke? Harper didn't answer with a name. She answered with the only strength she had left. She blinked once. Yes. Jack's face stayed controlled, but Liam saw the change. Rage compressing into something colder, more dangerous because it thought before it moved. Harper's eyes drifted to Liam again. She tried to lift her head and failed. Bag, she whispered. Liam leaned closer, desperate. What bag? Harper's lips barely moved. Under bridge, where you sleep. Liam went cold. The underpass. His spot. Harper's eyelids fluttered. She fought them. They'll take... Jack's hand tightened on the bed rail. What's in the bag? Harper's eyes squeezed shut like the answer hurt. Proof. The monitors beeped faster. A nurse hurried over. We need her to rest, now. Jack didn't move. Harper, where is it exactly? Harper's gaze slid toward Liam one last time. Her hand tightened on his sleeve with the last of her strength. Hide it, she whispered. Don't trust. Her eyes rolled back slightly, and the nurse immediately stepped in, pushing Jack back a fraction. That's enough, the nurse snapped. Out now! Jack's head turned toward Liam. His eyes were different now. Not just grief, not just rage. Purpose. You heard her, Jack said quietly. Liam nodded, heart hammering. Yes? Jack's voice dropped even lower. You know where you sleep. You know where you hide things. You can get to it faster than any of us. Liam's mouth went dry. They'll be watching. Jack's gaze cut toward the doors, toward the lobby, toward the sheriff. I know. The nurse pushed Jack harder this time. Mr. Mercer, leave. Jack stepped back, but before Liam could turn away, Jack reached into his coat and pulled out something small, folded paper and a key card. He slid it into Liam's hand. Room 214, Jack said. Security will let you in. Food, shower, lock. You stay there unless Tate comes for you. Liam stared at the key card like it was a ticket to a world he'd never been allowed into. Jack's eyes narrowed. And Liam? Liam looked up. Jack's voice was iron. That bag is the difference between my daughter living in peace and dying in fear. You bring it to Tate. Nobody else. Liam nodded, throat tight. Jack turned as the nurse forced him out, his last words thrown over his shoulder like a command carved into stone. And if anyone tries to touch you tonight, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Liam stepped back through the trauma doors into the hallway and almost collided with Brandt. Brandt grabbed his shoulder. What did she say? Liam hesitated. Brandt's face was tense, but his eyes were the first ones tonight that looked like they actually wanted the truth. Before Liam could answer, Tate's phone buzzed. He listened for 2 seconds, then his head snapped up. Rourke's moving, Tate said, voice flat. Brandt's brow tightened. Moving where? Tate looked at Liam. To the bridge, and down the hall from the lobby came the sound of boots and radios, fast, organized, official. Liam's blood drained, because if the sheriff was going to the bridge, that meant Harper's proof was already being hunted, and his hiding place was about to become a crime scene. The hallway outside trauma turned into a funnel of motion, nurses rushing, deputies moving in clusters, radios hissing like insects. Liam stood between Brandt and Tate with Harper's patch pressed flat in his palm, the keycard Jack gave him digging into his skin. Tate, Brandt said, voice tight, tell me you're guessing. Tate didn't blink. I'm not. Liam's mouth went dry. How would he even know? Tate's jaw flexed. Because he's not reacting, he's directing. Brandt's eyes flashed. If the sheriff is going to the bridge, that means he already had eyes on you. Liam felt the world tilt. The beanie man. The SUV. The pillar in the lobby. It wasn't random. It was a net. Tate stepped closer, lowering his voice to a level meant for survival, not conversation. Listen to me, kid. You do exactly what I say. You don't freelance. You don't try to be brave. Liam's hands shook. They'll trash everything. My stuff. Forget your stuff, Tate snapped, then softened just a fraction. Your stuff is a blanket in a can. Harper said proof. That's the only thing that matters. Brandt took out his phone, thumb moving fast. I'm calling it in. We can intercept. Tate grabbed Brandt's wrist and stopped the phone like it was a grenade. You call it in on county radio and you warn him. You want to help? You keep your mouth shut on channels he owns. Brandt's face hardened. Then what? Tate cut him off. We move quiet. He nodded toward a side corridor that led away from the lobby. 2 bikers peeled off from the wall without being told, shadows with boots. One of them, a woman, lean, older than most, eyes sharp as glass, gave Liam a fast once-over. Name? She asked. Liam, he said. She nodded once. Mara. Tate pointed at Liam. Mara, you stay on him. Brandt, you're with me. We don't go out the front. Brandt looked like every rule in his body was screaming, but he nodded. Fine. They moved. Not running. Running draws eyes. They walked briskly through a service hallway where the lights buzzed and the air smelled like bleach and old heat. Liam's stomach twisted with fear, but his feet followed because there was no other choice. At a steel door marked Authorized Only, Mara swiped a badge someone had already handed her. The door clicked open. "Hospital staff?" Liam blurted. Mara didn't smile. "Everyone's got friends." They stepped into a loading bay. A delivery truck idled. A side gate stood half open. Beyond it was the back lot, dark, wet, hidden from the main entrance in its sea of cameras. A black pickup waited there, engine off. No markings, no lights, just presence. Tate opened the rear door. "Get in." Liam climbed in, heart punching his ribs. Mara slid in beside him. Brandt took the front passenger seat. Tate drove. The pickup rolled out smooth, tires whispering through slush, no dramatic rev, no roar. It cut behind the hospital and into side streets where the city looked asleep, unaware it was about to become a war zone. Liam stared out the window, trying to picture the bridge in his mind. The underpass where he slept wasn't just one spot. It was a whole maze of concrete supports, drainage pipes, rusted shopping carts, broken pallets, and graffiti. Harper had said, "Where you sleep." That was the problem. There were 3 places Liam slept depending on rain, cops, or who else was there. Tate's voice came without turning around. "Which bridge?" Liam swallowed. "The old overpass near River Street." Tate nodded like he already knew. "Good." Brandt glanced back at Liam. "Did she say what the proof is?" Liam's throat tightened. Jack's instruction burned in his mind. Nobody else. He chose the safest truth. "She said proof, that's all." Brandt didn't look satisfied, but he didn't press. They turned onto River Street. The underpass appeared ahead like a dark mouth. Concrete pillars, black water in the gutters, wind, the smell of damp and garbage, and lights, not traffic, flashlights moving in a pattern. Liam's blood drained. Tate slowed and killed the headlights 2 blocks away. The pickup rolled on momentum and stopped behind a row of closed storefronts. Through the windshield, Liam saw it clearly now. 2 cruisers parked under the overpass at an angle, blocking part of the access. Deputies moved between pillars like they'd rehearsed it, not searching like they didn't know what they were looking for, searching like they were checking boxes. Brandt muttered, "Jesus." Tate's voice was a whisper. "Rourke." Liam's stomach clenched. "They're already there." Mara leaned in close, her breath barely fogging. "Kid, you know the layout. Where do you keep anything you don't want found?" Liam's mind raced. His hiding spots were small, stupid things. A crack behind a drain pipe, a space inside a broken sign frame, a hole under a piece of loose rebar. But Harper's bag wouldn't fit in those. Unless, Liam remembered the storm drain access hatch near the 3rd pillar. It had a bent latch and a gap just wide enough for a backpack if you shoved it in sideways. Liam used it once to stash a donated coat when cops started sweeping tents. He stared at the bridge. 3rd pillar from the riverside. There's a drain hatch. It's bent. You can slide a bag behind it. Tate's eyes flicked in the rear view. "You sure?" Liam nodded fast. "If she knew where I sleep, she probably saw me there. That's the only stash that fits a bag." Tate looked at Brandt. "We go in, we go out. Quiet." Brandt's jaw tightened. "We're walking into an active police operation." Tate's answer was flat. "No, we're walking into a cover-up." Mara cracked her door a fraction and listened. The night carried voices faintly, commands, laughter, the clink of something metal hitting concrete. Deputies. Comfortable. Too comfortable. Tate got out first, shutting the door with barely a sound. Brandt followed, one hand near his jacket like his body wanted a weapon without admitting it. Mara opened Liam's door. "Stay low. Stay behind me." Liam slid out, cold biting instantly. The underpass wind hit his bones. He crouched instinctively, shoulders hunching, like the bridge itself was a predator. They moved along the shadow line of the buildings toward the overpass, using parked cars as cover. Liam's sneakers were thin, soles damp. Every step felt loud. As they got closer, Liam recognized the deputy voices. One of them was Haskins, the bully cop. Haskins' laugh bounced under the concrete. "Look at this dump," he said. "Whole damn place smells like failure." Another deputy replied, "Sheriff said tear it apart." Liam's heart hammered so hard it hurt. Sheriff said. This wasn't a normal sweep. This was targeted. They reached the edge of the underpass shadow. From here, Liam could see the 3rd pillar and the storm drain hatch he meant. Two deputies stood near it, flashlights pointed down, talking. Haskins walked toward them with a folded paper in his hand. A warrant? Or something pretending to be one. He pointed at the drain hatch. Check behind that. Kid's got to have a stash. Liam's vision narrowed. They were about to find it. Tate's voice dropped to a breath. Kid, you're the only one who can get there without them noticing. You move like you belong. Liam stared at him, terrified. They'll recognize me. Mara shook her head slightly. Not if you're a shadow. Brandt grabbed Tate's arm. This is insane. We're sending a child into... Tate didn't look at Brandt. He's already in it. Liam's throat tightened. His body screamed no, but Harper's whisper echoed, hide it. Don't trust. If they got the bag, Harper's proof died, and if the proof died, Harper might still live. But she'd live hunted. Liam exhaled, shallow. Okay, he whispered. Mara leaned close. You go to the pillar, you get the bag, you come back the same way. If anything changes, you drop flat and you don't move until I pull you. Liam nodded, heart pounding. He slipped forward. He stayed close to the concrete supports, moving in the darkest bands between streetlight pools. He moved the way he'd learned to move when cops drove by and you didn't want them to notice you existed. For 3 seconds, it worked. Then a flashlight beam swept the ground and stopped on Liam's shoes. Hey! A deputy barked. Liam froze. Haskins turned, eyes narrowing, then lit up with recognition like he'd just found the answer to a problem. Well, well, Haskins said, stepping toward Liam with a grin that was all teeth. Look who crawled back. Liam's blood drained as Haskins' flashlight climbed from his shoes up to his face, and behind Haskins, half hidden near the cruiser, Sheriff Rourke stepped forward, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd been expecting Liam to show. Evening, Liam, Rourke called, voice easy. You saved me a lot of digging. Rourke's smile sat on his face like it had been welded there. Under the overpass lights, it looked almost friendly, until Liam saw the deputies behind him fanning out in a loose half-circle, blocking the dark paths that could have led back to Tate and Mara. Haskins lifted his flashlight higher, blinding Liam for a second. Hands! He barked, like Liam had a weapon instead of a stomach that still hurt from a protein bar. Liam raised his hands slowly. His palms were empty. The patch was back at the hospital. The keycard was in his pocket. His whole body felt like it was vibrating. Rourke took 2 slow steps closer. You didn't tell me you had a special relationship with the Mercers, he said, voice calm. That's an interesting detail to leave out. I don't have a relationship, Liam said. He hated how small his voice sounded under all that concrete. Rourke's eyes softened in a way that meant nothing. Sure you do. That's why their people came. That's why you're here. He tilted his head, studying Liam like Liam was a document. You know what I like about kids? They think the truth matters. They don't understand stories matter more. Haskins chuckled. He's a real hero, Sheriff. Ran right into traffic, probably for the camera. There's no camera here, Liam said before he could stop himself. Rourke's smile tightened. Exactly. A deputy behind Rourke kicked through a pile of cardboard and trash near the first pillar, flashlight beam darting, searching with purpose. Another deputy dragged a broken shopping cart aside and shone light under it, not because anything would be there, because it looked like work. Rourke glanced toward the third pillar, toward the storm drain hatch Liam had described. The deputies there had paused, waiting. They hadn't opened it yet. They were waiting for Rourke. Rourke looked back at Liam. Tell me where the bag is. Liam's throat locked. What bag? Rourke laughed softly. That's adorable. Listen, kid, I don't want to hurt you. I don't enjoy hurting kids. He leaned closer, voice dropping. But I will do what's necessary to keep this county from being swallowed by a biker war. Liam's stomach turned. I didn't start anything. No, Rourke agreed. You just wandered into the middle, and now you're holding something that doesn't belong to you. Haskins stepped in and shoved Liam's shoulder, not enough to knock him down, enough to remind him it could happen any time. Sheriff asked you a question, Haskins said. Liam's mind raced. If he told them the hatch, they'd get the bag. If he didn't, they'd take him somewhere darker than this. He tried to stall. Harper's hurt. She needs... Rourke's eyes flicked, a flash of anger under the calm. Don't say her name like you know her. A deputy called from the third pillar. Sheriff, this hatch is bent. Could fit a backpack. Rourke didn't look away from Liam. See, he said gently, like he was teaching a lesson. You don't even need to confess. The bridge will confess for you. Haskins walked toward the third pillar. I got it. Mara's voice suddenly cut from the darkness at Liam's left, low and sharp. Don't. Liam didn't turn his head, but his heart slammed. She was close, too close. A deputy swung his flashlight and caught her for half a second, just enough to see a figure in dark clothes, moving. Hey! Who the hell? Mara vanished behind a pillar before the beam could settle. Rourke's smile didn't fade. It widened, pleased. And there we go, he said quietly. The bikers are here. Haskins snapped his head toward the shadows. Sheriff, we got company. Rourke raised a hand, slow. Nobody shoots, nobody escalates. He looked at Liam. You see what you did? You dragged them into my streets. Liam's pulse pounded in his ears. He couldn't see Tate, but he felt him. Somewhere in the dark line beyond the storefronts, watching, calculating. Rourke took a step toward Liam. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me exactly where it is, and then you're going to walk away from this bridge alive. Liam forced himself to breathe. And if I don't? Rourke's smile stayed. Then you become the reason Harper doesn't wake up to a quiet town. The words were soft. The threat was not. Liam felt his knees go weak, then locked them. You can't. I can, Rourke said, because I control what gets written down. I control what gets believed. And right now, you're just a homeless boy with no one to vouch for you. He leaned in so close Liam smelled his aftershave. Except monsters. Behind him, the deputy at the hatch called out again. Latch is stuck! Haskins knelt at the storm drain hatch and jammed his fingers into the bent gap, yanking. Metal squealed. The hatch lifted a few inches. Liam's chest tightened. Any second the bag would appear and everything would be over. Mara's silhouette flickered between pillars again, moving closer to the hatch, but a flashlight snapped to her direction. There, a deputy shouted. Boots pounded. Mara ducked back fast. She'd been trying to distract them. It wasn't enough. Rourke watched the commotion without turning his head. He kept his eyes on Liam like Liam was the center of the trap. Final chance, he said. Liam's mouth went dry. He tried to picture the hatch, the bag, the gap. If it was shoved behind it sideways, it might snag. It might not slide out easily. If Haskins yanked too hard, he might rip it, spill whatever was inside. Maybe that was the only chance. Not to save the bag, just to buy seconds. Liam made a decision so fast it didn't feel like a decision. It felt like instinct. He jerked his head toward the darker end of the underpass, away from the third pillar, toward a cluster of pallets and a drainage pipe that Liam used as a decoy stash sometimes. It's not there, Liam blurted. It's over there. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Over where? Liam pointed with a shaking finger. By the pallets. The pipe. Haskins looked up from the hatch. Sheriff? Rourke stared at Liam, searching for the lie. Then he smiled again. Good boy. He snapped his fingers at two deputies. Check it. The deputies moved, flashlights cutting across the concrete. One of them kicked the pallets aside. The other shoved his arm into the drain pipe, grunting, searching for something that wasn't there. Seconds. Liam's heart hammered. It wasn't much, but it was time. At the third pillar, Haskins yanked again at the hatch. The metal gave with a screech, opening wider. And in that same moment, from the darkness beyond the storefronts, a motorcycle engine fired up. One sharp burst, too close for comfort. Then another. Then 5 more, answering like a signal. Rourke's smile finally slipped. He turned his head toward the sound. Under the bridge, shadows moved, fast and organized. Not a crowd rushing. A small unit, cutting through angles and blind spots. Tate. Mara reappeared behind a pillar, closer now, and for the first time, Liam saw something in her hand. Small, dark, and not a weapon. A pocket-sized flashlight. She flicked it twice, fast. A code. From the far side, another light answered. Rourke's deputies swung their flashlights wildly, trying to catch shapes that refused to be caught. Sheriff, we got multiple, Rourke's voice snapped. Hold your positions. Haskins' hands were still on the hatch when a shadow stepped out behind him like it had grown from the pillar itself. A biker, huge, silent, grabbed Haskins by the collar and yanked him backward off the hatch in one clean motion. Haskins shouted and reached for his gun. The biker didn't punch him. He just twisted Haskins's wrist until the gun stayed in the holster, and Haskins's knees bent from pain. The deputies around them froze, shocked, not by violence, but by control. Rourke's hand flew toward his own belt. "Stand down," he barked, voice sharp now. Tate stepped into the light at last, calm as a judge walking into court. His eyes went straight to Liam, then to Rourke. "Evening, Sheriff," Tate said, voice quiet. Rourke's face hardened. "You're interfering with a lawful search?" Tate nodded slowly. "Then arrest me." The way he said it made Rourke hesitate, because it wasn't bravado. It was invitation. Mara slid in beside Liam, body angled protectively. She didn't touch him, but her presence was a shield. "Move," she whispered. Liam took one step back, then another, toward the deeper shadow line that led away from the third pillar. Rourke saw it and snapped, "Stop him!" A deputy lunged, and the night cracked. Not with a gunshot, with the roar of dozens of engines surging under the bridge at once, flooding the underpass with sound and light and vibrating concrete. Headlights swept over the deputies like a wave. Rourke's men flinched, suddenly surrounded by motion they couldn't predict. And in the chaos, as Liam backed into the shadows with Mara, he saw Haskins scramble to his feet and kick the storm drain hatch in frustration. And something dark slipped out from behind it. A backpack, half visible, right there, waiting. The backpack hung halfway out of the storm drain gap like a tongue caught in teeth. For 1 second, nobody moved because everyone saw it at the same time. Deputies, bikers, and Liam. Rourke's eyes locked on it and his calm finally cracked. "Get that bag," he barked. Haskins lunged for it with both hands. The huge biker who'd yanked him off the hatch didn't swing. He simply stepped in, blocked, and shoved Haskins backward with one arm like moving a chair. Haskins stumbled, boots sliding in slush. "Sheriff," a deputy shouted, "we're surrounded." They weren't. Not fully. But it felt like it. Engines idled under the bridge, headlights aimed low, washing the concrete in harsh white beams. Bikers stood in a loose ring, not charging, not yelling, just present, silent, disciplined. That discipline was the most terrifying thing in the world to men who expected chaos. Tate walked toward the hatch without hurrying. He didn't look at the bag right away. He looked at Rourke. "Your men can step away," Tate said, voice level, "or we can all pretend you lost control." Rourke's jaw tightened. "This is an active investigation." Tate nodded slowly. "Then you should be investigating the man who tried to stop the 911 call." Rourke's eyes flicked, tiny, involuntary, toward the darker end of the underpass. Liam felt Mara's hand brush his elbow, guiding him backward into deeper shadow. "Keep moving," she whispered. "Don't stop. Don't look like you're running." Liam obeyed, feet sliding over wet concrete, heart trying to break out of his ribs. He wanted the bag. He wanted to grab it himself. But Tate had said bring it to Tate, and Jack had said nobody else. So Liam did the hardest thing. He didn't reach for it. He let the adults fight over it. A deputy moved toward Liam anyway, eyes narrowed like he'd finally found the easiest target. "You, stop right there." Mara stepped in front of Liam, calm as a wall. "No." The deputy's hand went to his cuffs. "Move." Mara didn't raise her voice. "Try." The deputy hesitated, not because Mara looked dangerous, but because Tate's people behind her shifted by half an inch. And suddenly, the deputy understood he'd be choosing a moment he couldn't control. Rourke saw the hesitation and snapped, "Do your job!" 2 deputies tried to push toward the hatch at once. Tate lifted his hand, flat palm again, and the bikers closest to the deputies moved, not fast, not attacking, just stepping into the lanes the deputies wanted to use, bodies angled, shoulders squared, blocking like human doors. It was simple, and it worked. Rourke's face turned red with restrained fury. He pointed at the big biker near Haskins. "That man is assaulting an officer." The big biker didn't look at him. He looked at Haskins and spoke for the first time, voice like gravel. "You're breathing. Quit whining." Haskins' eyes bulged with humiliation. He spat, "You don't know who you're messing with." The biker's gaze was empty. "Sure I do." Then Tate finally crouched by the hatch. He reached in carefully and pulled the backpack out with 2 hands, like he was removing a live wire. It was heavier than it looked. Water dripped off the bottom seam. The zipper was strained, half burst like something inside wanted out. The second the bag cleared the hatch, Rourke stepped forward. "Evidence. That goes to me." Tate stood, backpack hanging from one fist. No, Rourke's voice sharpened. That bag belongs to this investigation. Tate's eyes were flat. That bag belongs to the girl you tried to bury. For the first time, Rourke's mask slipped enough to show real anger. Watch your mouth. Tate didn't blink. Watch your hands. Rourke's deputy took a half step toward Tate. Brandt came into view from the shadow line, moving closer now, his badge visible in his hand like a shield. Sheriff, Brandt said, loud enough for everyone to hear. This search is compromised. Your men were targeting a witness, not securing a scene. Rourke turned on him. Detective, you are out of your depth. Brandt's jaw tightened. Then why do you keep trying to drown a kid? Rourke's eyes flashed. He leaned in, voice tight and venomous. Because that kid is the match, and you're holding the gasoline. Then, like he remembered cameras weren't here but stories still were, Rourke raised his voice. Everyone back. I'm ordering you to disperse. No one moved. Tate shifted his grip on the backpack and looked at Liam for the first time since the engines roared in. Liam was half behind Mara now, still in shadow, but Tate's eyes found him anyway. Come here, Tate said. Liam's feet didn't want to, but his brain knew what it meant. Ownership of the moment, witness, control of the narrative. Mara nodded once. Liam stepped forward into the light. Rourke's gaze hit him like a hook. There he is, the sheriff said, voice carrying. The witness, you want to know what he did tonight? He inserted himself into an incident and... Stop, Tate said quietly. Rourke blinked. Excuse me? Tate's voice remained even. You're speaking like you already wrote the report. Rourke's smile turned sharp. I'm speaking like a sheriff trying to keep order. Tate nodded toward the bag. Then keep it. Order your men to stand down. Let Brandt escort the kid back to the hospital. We'll hand over the bag after it's logged properly. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Logged by who? Tate's answer was immediate. Not you. That did it. Rourke's face hardened. He pointed at Tate. Under authority of the county. He reached for his radio, and Liam saw what Mara had been watching for, movement at the far end of the underpass beyond the deputies, where the light didn't reach cleanly. The beanie man again. Not close this time. Farther back, using the concrete pillars like a maze. He wasn't looking at Liam now. He was looking at the backpack, and he was lifting a phone to his ear. Liam's lungs seized. The beanie man wasn't here for Liam anymore. He was calling someone else, calling backup, calling the real cleanup. Liam's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He forced it. Tate! Tate's eyes snapped to him. What? Liam pointed, voice cracking. That man, Beanie. He was at the street. He was in the hospital. He's here. He's calling someone. Rourke's head turned sharply, eyes hunting the darkness. The beanie man saw the attention and didn't run. He simply stepped backward behind a pillar and vanished. In the same second, far above the bridge, an engine revved, high, aggressive. Not a motorcycle, a car, a dark SUV, different angle now, coming fast. Brandt's voice cut through the roar. Incoming! Headlights swept across the mouth of the underpass. Tires hissed on wet pavement. The SUV shot into view like a bullet and aimed straight at the cluster around Tate. Rourke's deputies scattered instinctively. Bikers moved too, but not away, toward, to block. Tate shoved the backpack at Brandt. Take it, now! Brandt grabbed it, stunned. Mara yanked Liam backward hard, dragging him toward the shadow line. The SUV didn't slow. It accelerated. And in the split second before impact, Liam understood the plan. Not arrest, not intimidation, a crash in the chaos, a tragic accident, bag gone, witness gone, story rewritten. The SUV's grille filled Liam's vision, and then a biker stepped into its path, planting his boots on wet concrete like he was anchoring the whole bridge with his body. The biker didn't flinch. He stepped into the SUV's path and planted his boots on wet concrete like he'd decided the laws of physics were negotiable. Headlights blasted his chest, turning the patches on his vest into flat white shapes. For half a second, Liam thought the man was going to die. Then the biker moved. Not away, sideways. He grabbed the SUV's hood edge with both hands and yanked himself up and off the ground as the vehicle screamed forward. Metal shrieked. The biker's boots slid, then left the pavement entirely. He rode the hood for a heartbeat, body low, arms locked, while the driver inside jerked the wheel in panic. The SUV fishtailed. Bikes surged in from the sides like wolves, but still controlled. No one firing, no one swinging chains, just bodies and machines taking angles. A front tire clipped a curb, and the SUV lurched hard, skidding toward a concrete pillar. The biker on the hood slammed his fist down on the windshield, not to break it, but to blind. The glass spiderwebbed, and the driver's silhouette jerked back. The SUV clipped the pillar with a crunch that echoed under the bridge like a drum hit. The front end crumpled, steam hissed, the engine screamed once, then choked. Silence hit like a second impact. Then, everything exploded into motion again. Deputies shouted, radios blared, boots ran. Rourke's voice cut through it, sharp and furious. "Back! Everyone back! Secure the vehicle!" But the deputies hesitated because the bikers didn't rush the SUV like animals. They formed a tight ring around it, keeping a lane open for exactly one person. Tate. He walked in slowly, shoulders squared, eyes fixed on the driver's side door. Brandt stood 10 yards away, clutching the backpack like it was now a live bomb. His eyes met Liam's for a split second, wide, tense, then snapped back to the sheriff. Mara had Liam pinned in the shadow, her forearm across his chest, not hurting him, holding him in place like a safety belt. "Don't move," she whispered. "Whatever happens now, you don't run into it." Liam could barely breathe. He could taste exhaust and cold metal in the air. The biker who'd ridden the hood dropped to the ground and staggered, one knee hitting concrete. Someone grabbed his arm and steadied him. He shook it off, pride and adrenaline keeping him upright. Tate reached the driver's door. He didn't yank it open. He knocked on the window once, calmly, like he was at someone's house. Then he leaned down, voice too low for Liam to hear, and said something. Inside the SUV, the driver moved, fast, frantic, hands flashing toward the passenger seat. Mara's posture changed instantly. "Gun," she breathed, and Liam felt every muscle in her body tighten. A deputy shouted, "He's reaching!" Rourke barked, "Shoot if you have to!" Brandt snapped, "No." Tate moved first. He hooked his fingers under the door handle and ripped it open in one violent pull. The driver tried to turn, tried to raise something dark. Tate grabbed the man's wrist and slammed it into the doorframe with a crack that made Liam's stomach twist. The object, pistol, small, clattered to the ground. No one fired. The driver screamed, and Tate yanked him out onto the wet concrete like pulling trash from a drain. The man hit the ground hard, face scraping slush. He tried to crawl. Tate planted a boot beside his shoulder, not on him, beside him, and the man froze. Rourke finally shoved forward through his deputies, face livid. "That's an officer-involved scene. Step away." Tate didn't move. He looked at Rourke like Rourke was an inconvenience. "Your guy," Tate said quietly. Rourke's eyes narrowed. "I don't know him." Tate gestured with his chin at the beanie on the driver's head, the same beanie Liam had seen at the street. The same empty stare, now panicked and furious. The beanie man looked up and locked eyes with Liam in the shadows. And Liam understood something that made his blood go ice cold. This man didn't care if he lived or died. He cared about the backpack. The beanie man's lips moved, and even from this distance, Liam read it. Bag. Rourke saw the movement, saw the driver's focus shift toward the shadows, and his eyes snapped fast to Brandt. Brandt was still holding the backpack. Rourke's face went unreadable. "Detective," he called, voice suddenly calm. "Bring that evidence here, now." Brandt didn't move. Rourke's smile returned, thin. "Don't make this complicated." Brandt's jaw clenched. "You just ordered your men to shoot into a crowd." Rourke spread his hands. "I ordered them to stop a threat." "A threat you brought," Brandt snapped. Rourke's eyes hardened. "Detective, last warning." Behind Rourke, a deputy shifted closer to Brandt, hand hovering near his weapon, eyes flicking between the sheriff and the bag like he was waiting for permission to do something irreversible. Mara pulled Liam even tighter into shadow. "We're leaving," she whispered. Liam stared at the backpack, chest tight. "But Jack said bring it to Tate," Mara hissed. "Brandt's holding it. That's already too public. Rourke is going to take it and bury it." Liam's mind raced. Harper had said the proof was in the bag. If the sheriff got it, it would vanish. If Tate got it, it might turn into war. If Brandt kept it, he'd be crushed between both. And then Liam saw the tear at the bag's seam. The zipper strained, half open from Haskins yanking it. Something inside was visible for a split second in the headlights. A plastic sleeve, paper edges, a corner of a small black drive. Proof. Brandt's grip tightened reflexively as if he'd seen it too. Rourke stepped closer, voice gentle again. "Detective, Hand it over. We can keep this clean. Tate turned his head slightly toward Brandt. Don't! Brandt swallowed hard. He looked at the sheriff, then at Tate. Then, impossibly, at Liam in the shadows, as if asking the kid who'd started all this what the right move was. Liam's mouth went dry. He remembered Harper's rasped words. Don't trust. He remembered Jack's command, nobody else. And he remembered the beanie man's eyes, hungry for that bag like it was life or death. Liam took a breath and made a decision that felt like jumping off a bridge. He stepped out of the shadow line, voice cracking but loud enough to carry under the concrete. "Detective Brandt," Liam shouted, "open it right now, in front of everyone." Every head turned. Rourke's smile faltered for the first time. Brandt froze. Tate's eyes narrowed, not angry, surprised. Liam's heart hammered as he forced the words out, fast before fear could choke them. "If it's evidence," Liam said, "then we log what's inside before it can disappear. You wanted facts? Fine. Show them." For one terrifying second, nobody moved. Then Brandt's hand slid to the zipper, and Sheriff Rourke's voice dropped into something flat and deadly. "Kid," he said softly, "you really don't know when to stop." Brandt's thumb hooked the zipper tab and pulled. The sound was small, nylon teeth separating. But under the bridge it landed like a siren. Everyone leaned in without moving. Deputies, bikers, even the beanie man on the ground stopped squirming, eyes locked on the backpack like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Sheriff Rourke's stare never left Brandt's hands. "Don't," Rourke said, voice calm and warning all at once. Brandt didn't look up. He opened the top pocket first, slow and deliberate, like a man defusing a bomb in public. Inside, a folded plastic sleeve, water-spotted, a cheap motel keycard, a printed receipt, then a small black drive, USB, taped to a piece of cardboard with blue painter's tape. Brandt lifted it just enough for the headlights to catch it. "Jesus," someone muttered. Rourke's jaw flexed. "Detective," he said, softer now. "Hand it to me." Brandt finally looked up. "No." Rourke's smile returned, thin as a razor. "You're choosing the club over the county." Brandt's voice was steady. "I'm choosing evidence over you." Tate took one step forward. "Brandt, what else?" Brandt opened the main compartment. The zipper snagged on the torn seam. He tugged gently, freeing it. The bag gaped wider, and the contents shifted, heavy. He pulled out a thick envelope wrapped in plastic, the kind used for paperwork in storms. Inside were printed photos and ledger pages, some with highlighted lines. He didn't read them aloud. He didn't have to. The names were visible even from a distance. A deputy's eyes widened. Another deputy looked away, suddenly nauseous like he'd recognized someone on the page. Rourke's calm snapped into heat. "That's stolen property," he barked. "Is that your name?" Brandt cut in, and his voice was louder now, meant to reach everyone under that bridge. "Because it sure looks like your name." Rourke's eyes flashed. "You're done." He nodded sharply to the deputy closest to Brandt. "Take it." The deputy moved, hesitant but moving, hand half raised like he didn't want to touch the bag and be remembered for it. Tate's palm lifted again. Two bikers stepped into the deputy's path. No punches, no threats, just bodies. The deputy stopped because his brain finally accepted the truth. He could not force his way through without starting something he couldn't stop. Rourke's voice sharpened. "Move." The deputy swallowed, didn't move. Rourke's gaze slid to Brandt again. His tone cooled into something dangerous. "You're making me look weak." Brandt didn't blink. "You are weak. You're just used to people pretending you aren't." That sentence changed the night. Rourke's hand went to his radio. He pressed the button with a slow, deliberate motion, eyes never leaving Brandt. "All units," he said, voice smooth. "County incident. I need additional law enforcement at River Street Overpass. Now." Tate's head tilted slightly. "Calling reinforcements." Rourke's smile was cold. "Calling order." The beanie man on the ground laughed, hoarse, ugly, and coughed. "Too late," he rasped, and nobody heard him except Liam. Liam stared at him. "What's too late?" The beanie man's eyes slid to the far end of the underpass. "You think this ends with papers," he whispered. Then the sound came. Not engines, footsteps, multiple, running, from above the bridge, from the access stairwell that led down from River Street. Brandt's head snapped up. Tate's shoulders tensed. Mara grabbed Liam by the back of his jacket and pulled him deeper into shadow. "Down," she hissed. Liam crouched instinctively behind a low concrete barrier, heart hammering. A line of deputies poured down the stairwell, flashlights bouncing, weapons out. Not just local. Some had different patches, state, task force. People Rourke had called in who didn't know the rules under this bridge, who saw leather vests and assumed a riot. "Hands!" a voice shouted. "Everybody on the ground!" The bikers didn't drop. They held their line, still disciplined, still silent. That silence made the new deputies more nervous. A nervous deputy is a match in a dry forest. Rourke lifted his arms, playing the hero. "Everyone calm down," he called loudly, like he wasn't the one who struck the flint. "We have armed suspects interfering with an investigation," Brandt snapped. "That's a lie." Rourke ignored him. He pointed toward the bikers. "Disarm them." A state deputy raised his rifle slightly. Tate's voice cut through the chaos, low but carrying. "Nobody shoots." The state deputy's finger tightened anyway, uncertain, scared, looking for permission. And then, in the tightest second of Liam's life, a sound snapped under the bridge. A pop, small, sharp. Not a rifle, not a motorcycle backfire, a handgun. Liam's blood turned to ice because the shot didn't come from the line of deputies. It came from behind them, farther up the stairwell, in the confusion. Someone who used the deputies as cover. A black-clad figure shoved through the bodies and fired again, aiming not at Tate, not at the bikers, at Brandt, at the backpack. Brandt jerked sideways, trying to shield it, and the second shot cracked and sparked against concrete. Liam saw it all in fragments, Brandt's face tightening, the bag swinging, papers shifting, the USB drive flashing in the headlights. The gunman pushed forward, arm extended. Rourke's deputies screamed, "Gun!" But nobody was aiming at the right person. Everyone was aiming at the leather vests. The gunman fired again, and Liam moved before he understood he was moving. He burst out from behind the barrier and sprinted toward Brandt, toward the bag, toward the line of fire, because his brain only had one rule tonight. If someone is about to die, you don't stand there and watch. Mara shouted his name, sharp, furious. Tate's head snapped toward him. Brandt saw Liam and his eyes widened in pure horror. "No!" The gunman's muzzle swung, tracking the motion, tracking Liam. Liam lunged forward, and the shot hit. Not where the gunman meant, because Brandt twisted at the last second and the backpack slammed against his chest as he tried to shield it. The bullet tore through the bag's side instead, punching into the thick envelope, shredding plastic, scattering papers in a wet flurry across the concrete. Brandt staggered, but stayed on his feet. The gunman cursed and stepped in closer, reaching now, desperate. Tate moved like violence finally given permission. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and grabbed the gunman's forearm, mid-reach. The gun went off one more time into the air. Tate twisted, hard, bone popped, the gun dropped. The gunman tried to pull free, but bikers slammed into him from both sides, pinning him without stomping him, without turning it into a mob. Controlled. Deadly. Brandt gasped, clutching the torn backpack, eyes wild. He looked down at Liam, who was frozen inches away, heart hammering like it wanted out of his ribs. "You okay?" Brandt breathed. Liam nodded, even though his legs felt like they were made of water. Rourke stepped forward, face tight with fury, voice rising. "This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. Armed chaos. This—" "Shut up," Tate said, and the entire underpass heard it. Rourke's eyes widened, insulted. "Excuse me?" Tate pointed at the gunman, now pinned on the ground. "That's yours." Rourke's face went blank. "I don't know him." The gunman spit blood and laughed. "Sure," he rasped. Brandt bent down and snatched the USB drive from the torn tape, holding it up. "This goes to the feds," he said, loud. "Not to you." Rourke's gaze snapped to the drive. For the first time, Liam saw something worse than anger in the sheriff's eyes. Panic. Because whatever was on that drive wasn't just corruption, it was a death sentence for his career. And maybe for him. Rourke took a slow step forward, and Liam realized, too late, that Rourke had never needed the bag. He needed the drive, and he was close enough now to take it. Rourke moved like he was walking into a handshake. Slow, calm, reasonable. His deputies, still rattled by the gunshots, shifted with him on instinct, not because they knew what he was about to do, but because they'd been trained to follow the man with the biggest voice. Brandt held the USB drive between 2 fingers like it might burn him. The torn backpack sagged from his other hand, plastic shredded, papers stuck to the wet concrete in clumps. "This is federal," Brandt said again, louder, as if saying it could make it true. "Nobody touches." Rourke's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Detective, you're shaking," he said gently. "Let me secure that before someone else grabs it. You've done enough for tonight." Brandt's jaw clenched. "Back up." Rourke stopped a few feet away and lifted both hands, palms out. "Look at you," he murmured, still performing calm. "Standing between a biker mob and a crime scene. You want a medal? Fine. But you're not walking out of here with evidence you don't understand." Tate's voice was flat. "Step back, Sheriff." Rourke didn't even glance at him. His eyes stayed locked on the drive. "Tate, you're interfering. Again. I'm trying to stop this from turning into a massacre." "A massacre you keep setting up," Brandt snapped. Rourke's gaze flicked to Brandt's face for a split second, cold now. "You don't get to talk to me like that." He nodded once, and one of the new state deputies, nervous, hyped, looking for direction, took that nod as permission. The deputy surged forward. Brandt reacted, jerking his hand back with the drive, but the deputy's fingers closed around Brandt's wrist. Another deputy grabbed Brandt's shoulder. It turned into a tangle in one heartbeat, badge, hands, wet concrete, shouting. "Let go!" Brandt barked. Rourke stepped in, still calm, still smiling. "Easy," he said, like a father calming a child. "Easy, give it here." Liam's chest went tight. He saw it clearly. The sheriff wasn't going to shoot. He wasn't going to brawl. He was going to take it with procedure and bodies, and then write the story afterward. Tate moved, not with rage, with decision. He stepped toward the deputies holding Brandt, and the bikers behind him did the same, a quiet wave of boots. The deputies stiffened, weapons half raised. "Back!" someone shouted. Brandt's hand twisted, drive still trapped between his fingers. The deputy holding him yanked harder, trying to rip it free. The USB slipped. For a split second, it hung in the air, black against the white beams of headlights. Time slowed. Liam dove. His fingers closed around the drive an inch above the slush. He hit the ground hard, palms scraping wet grit, but he had it. He curled around it instinctively like it was the last warm thing in the world. A shadow fell over him. Rourke. The sheriff looked down at Liam, and there was no mask left now, just a man staring at the end of his life as he knew it. "You," Rourke said softly. "Always you." Liam tried to push up. Rourke's boot shifted, blocking Liam's hand from bracing, not stomping him, just controlling him. A subtle pressure with plausible deniability. "Give it to me," Rourke whispered, so low only Liam could hear. "And I'll make this all go away. You'll get a bed, you'll get food, you'll get papers, a program, a name that matters." Liam's heart hammered, his wrists burned, his stomach clenched with the memory of hunger. For one poisonous second the offer sounded like survival. Then Liam saw Harper's face in trauma, eyes open, forcing the word badge. He saw the beanie man firing into the chaos. He saw the way Rourke had smiled when he said, "protective custody." Liam tightened his fist until his knuckles ached. "No." Rourke's expression hardened. "Kid." A hand clamped onto the back of Rourke's coat and yanked him off balance. Tate. Tate didn't punch him. He didn't throw him. He simply pulled Rourke backward 2 steps and put himself between the sheriff and Liam like a wall. "You don't touch him," Tate said, voice low, absolute. Rourke's breath hitched. He's in possession of the truth," Tate cut in, "and you're in possession of a problem." Rourke's eyes flicked to the deputies, searching for loyalty. They were still tangled with Brandt, still confused, still trying to pretend this was under control. Then a new sound cut through the underpass, different from radios, different from engines. A crisp, controlled voice on a loudspeaker from the top of the stairwell. "Law enforcement, everyone hold position." More boots, heavier, more organized, not Rourke's. Brandt's head snapped up, breath ragged. "That's," he started. Tate didn't move, but his eyes shifted. "Federal." 2 men in jackets descended the stairwell with flashlights held steady, not bouncing. Behind them came more, agents with calm faces, weapons low, eyes scanning for who was actually in control. The lead agent held up credentials. "Special Agent Heller, we received an emergency communication from Detective Brandt regarding attempted suppression of evidence." Rourke's face drained of color. Brandt sucked in a breath. "I didn't..." You did, the agent said, eyes flicking to the torn backpack, the scattered documents, the gunman pinned on the ground. And you did it loudly enough. Brandt pointed at Rourke. He's been steering this, the call suppression, the targeted sweep, Rourke stepped forward, trying to recover his voice, trying to reclaim authority. This is my county. You don't have jurisdiction. Agent Heller's expression didn't change. We do now. Another agent bent, picked up one of the wet ledger pages with gloved fingers, and held it under a flashlight. Names, numbers, signatures. Agent Heller looked at Rourke. Sheriff Colton Rourke, you are being detained pending investigation for obstruction, evidence tampering, and conspiracy. Rourke's mouth opened. This is insane. These bikers, this child. Agent Heller's gaze slid to Liam, who was still on the ground behind Tate, fist clenched around the USB. The child is the reason your story ends. Rourke tried one last time to make it performance. He lifted his voice. You're making a mistake. Agent Heller nodded to two agents. Cuff him. The cuffs snapped around Rourke's wrists, real ones, tight ones, the kind he'd used on kids who couldn't fight back. For a second, Rourke looked genuinely shocked, like consequences were something that happened to other people. Then he twisted his head and glared at Liam. You think you won, Rourke hissed. Liam pushed himself up, shaking. He didn't speak. He simply held up the USB drive with two fingers where the agents could see it. Agent Heller's eyes narrowed. That's it? Liam nodded. Brandt stepped in fast, voice hoarse. Chain of custody. Take it now. An agent took the USB with a gloved hand and sealed it into a bag. Just like that, the drive became real in a way it hadn't been under the bridge. It became something that couldn't be lost in a sheriff's drawer. The gunman on the ground spat again, but this time it wasn't laughter. It was resignation. The bikers didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They held their line until the agents secured the scene, then stepped back without being asked, like they'd proven their point and didn't need to keep proving it. Tate turned toward Liam and finally let some warmth into his eyes, just enough to be human. You did good, he said. Liam's throat tightened. Harper. A nurse's voice crackled from a phone someone held out. Tate listened for 2 seconds, then looked at Liam. She's stable, Tate said. The words hit Liam like collapsing into a bed after years of standing. His knees almost gave out. Tate steadied him with a hand on his shoulder. Firm, careful, not possessive. Come on, Tate said. We're going back. Back at the hospital, the lobby looked different, less like a siege, more like aftermath. Security stood straighter. Nurses moved slower. People whispered instead of shouted. Jack Mercer sat in a chair outside trauma now, forearms on his knees, hands clasped like he was holding his own heart in place. When Tate approached with Liam, Jack stood. His eyes went straight to Liam's wrists, then to Liam's face. You got it? Jack asked. Tate nodded once. Feds have it. Jack exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath since the streetlight. He looked at Liam again, and the hardness in his face shifted, not into softness, but into something rarer. Respect. You saved her twice, Jack said. Liam's voice was small. I just didn't want her to die. Jack stared at him for a long beat, then nodded like that answer was the only one that mattered. I heard what he offered you, Jack said quietly. Liam blinked. What? Jack's eyes narrowed. Rourke. He offered you a bed to buy your silence, Liam swallowed. He did. Jack's jaw tightened. And you said no. Liam nodded once. Jack looked down the hallway toward trauma, then back at Liam. You're not invisible anymore, he said. Not in this town. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper, already signed, and a card with a number on it. That room key I gave you? Jack said. It's not a night thing. It's a start. You're going to have a place to sleep that locks. You're going to eat. You're going to go back to school if you want. And if you don't know how, we'll learn. Liam's throat tightened so hard it hurt. Why? Jack's voice was quiet, steady. Because you did what half this town wouldn't. He held Liam's gaze. And because my daughter asked you not to trust badges, so now you don't have to. Liam didn't know what to do with that. His hands trembled. Jack nodded toward a nurse who approached with a small tray. Real food, warm, steaming. Not a protein bar, not scraps. Liam stared at it like it was a trick. The nurse set it on a chair beside him and stepped away without a word. Jack's gaze stayed on Liam. Eat, he said. Slow. Don't hurt yourself. Liam sat. The chair felt wrong beneath him, too clean, too stable. He picked up a fork with fingers that still wanted to shake, and he took a bite. It wasn't just warm. It was safe. Behind the glass doors outside, bikes still idled, dozens of them, engines low, not threatening, not leaving yet. A presence, a promise. Liam took another bite, slower this time, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he had to watch his back every second. He just ate.